If you're a fan of the Argentine Soccer League and watched the derby on April 19th, let me tell you that Peter Thiel, accompanied by his husband, also watched it from one of the most privileged boxes in the stadium. Sebas, who is Peter Thiel, and what does he have to do with geopolitics or history? A lot, and I'll explain why. Peter Thiel is the founder of Palantir Technologies, an American big data analytics software company. If you're Ibero-American, believe me, you need to know what it is. So pay very, very close attention. He and his husband didn't go to the stadium to watch the game, but to work. They were focused on analyzing the psychology of the masses. What better setting than a social event that stirs up as much passion as soccer? In plain language, the fans were their guinea pigs for experimentation. A day before the match, Palantir published a manifesto with quasi-religious nationalist overtones on its X account. It was called the Technological Republic. I'll leave the link in the description so you can read it in full, and now I'll just give you a summary. I warn you, it's intense, really intense. Basically, this manifesto proposes a roadmap for the world in which the United States must regain active leadership, not only as a military power, but also as a technological power. It also argues that the West must reaffirm and impose its values on the rest of the world, drawing attention to other powers. Traditionally aligned with the United States, such as Japan and Germany. Spoiler alert, everything points to our region currently being the testing ground for the Technological Republic project. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let me tell you what we'll be covering today. 1. How has the United States' historic obsession with controlling its aptly named backyard played out? A nod to the Monroe Doctrine. 2. How is Palantir making strong inroads into some countries, and what consequences will this have? 4. How does all of this relate to a term that deserves more recognition, techno-feudalism? Are you interested? Then stay until the end of the video. But first, greetings from Amsterdam, one of my favorite cities, whose canals remind us how skilled the Dutch have been at engineering projects. And believe it or not, traditional engineering is not the main job market in the Netherlands. The demand for engineering, IT, health sciences, and even humanities is quite significant in a country facing a tremendous demographic crisis that needs immigration to sustain itself. Ever thought about living here, walking these beautiful streets daily, and visiting the Anne Frank House and Van Gogh Museum? Let me guess. Yes, but you get a terrible headache just thinking about the boring paperwork that comes with immigration. Relax, I have a great option for you. At Living Europe, you'll find top legal advisory experts for your move to the Netherlands or anywhere in Europe. Have you considered studying or finding a job? Living Europe will assess your case and support you from your first consultation through your full adaptation in the new country. Scan the QR code or message them at the number in the description and first comment and mention El Mapa de Sebas to get your first appointment free. Feel free to ask any questions. This could be your first big step toward living in the land of tulips or your favorite European country. Which one is it? Let me know in the comments. On December 2, 1823, President James Monroe delivered a State of the Union address before the United States Congress. In it, he proclaimed the famous phrase, "America for Americans," suggesting that his country, and not Europe, should be the regional power influencing the newly independent Ibero-American countries. This goes hand in hand with the famous doctrine of manifest destiny. The United States, the self-proclaimed nation chosen by God to bring democracy and freedom to the world. Very nice words and all, but they ended up becoming more of a foundation for their constant interventionism in our region. Not exactly in favor of our interests, but in favor of theirs. Let's call things what they are. The starting point of the Monroe Doctrine was the Spanish-American War of 1898. After that, Uncle Sam expelled Spain from Cuba and Puerto Rico. A clear message saying, "Hey little Europeans, I'm the new boss of the continent. Take care of your colonies in Africa and Asia because this is my zone."
Damn it, this is for messing with my zone. What zone? My dick.
After this, Uncle Sam didn't stop. In 1903, he intervened in Colombia in favor of Panama. To liberate the Panamanians, not at all, to take control of the canal. In 1912, he occupied Nicaragua. Was it to bring development to the Nicaraguans? No. To protect the interests of the United Fruit Company, UFTO, a company that we made a video about and which turned several countries in the region into banana republics. 1916, they occupied the Dominican Republic for the first time, establishing a military government. To prevent new threats? No. To protect their commercial interests. 1954. They encouraged a coup d'etat against the Guatemalan president, Jacobo Arbenz, who implemented an agrarian reform that affected the interests of the UFTO. Washington's excuse was that these were very communist measures. And was Arbenz really a communist? Well, no. It was to protect the interests of this company. The result was a civil war in Guatemala that lasted for 36 years and left nearly 200,000 dead. In the 1970s and 80s, it's impossible not to mention the famous Operation Condor. Direct support for far-right dictatorships, Videla in Argentina, Stroessner in Paraguay, and Pinochet in Chile. To protect South Americans from communist terror? No. Because if that were the case, it would have intervened to save Peru from Shining Path, which he didn't. It was more out of geopolitical interest in the context of the Cold War. Something I'd like to emphasize about Operation Condor is the massive control that existed over the population to eliminate any communist threat. It's estimated that around 60,000 people were killed and more than 400,000 became political prisoners. Now, can you imagine if Videla or Pinochet had had the big data technology that Palantir provides, which is extremely useful for surveillance? It would have been their wildest dream. Let me tell you why. So let's talk about the main character of our video. Hold on tight because some shocking facts are coming. Let's start with the economic ones. Palantir is currently worth about $350 billion. It's one of the most highly valued companies in the market today. Its total revenue is projected to be $7 billion by 2026. This means it has had an average annual growth of 61%. It's also estimated that by 2026, the value of its contracts will grow by up to 145%. Most of these are with the US government. Let's discuss its technological capabilities now. Basically, Palantir is an operating system made up of 3 platforms with capabilities that seem straight out of science fiction. Palantir Gotham provides military intelligence analysis by integrating thousands of data sources into a single coherent file, allowing the creation of information surveillance systems. According to them, it's to fight large-scale crime. But the real use they've given it, for example, ICE uses it to detect illegal migrants. Palantir Foundry integrates data for companies, and Palantir AIP is the operational intelligence that works as the AI brain for the other 2 systems. So, what happens when a company has so much economic and technological power, and it's created by people who openly advocate for a technological republic without civil liberties?
Peter Thiel, the patron of J.D. Vance, who is reluctant to finance Trump's campaign.
Billionaire technocrats buying politicians. It's nothing new, I know. But as many analysts point out, Thiel is a true visionary who is not content with influencing only the world's leading superpower. He is also expanding by selling his technology to other governments, such as the United Kingdom and especially to Israel, which I don't think surprises anyone. But where he really wants to get in is not just with sales, but apparently also with his ideological manifesto. It's in countries where Uncle Sam can walk in as if he owns the place.
Ecuador implements Palantir software to strengthen customs control.
The president of Ecuador, Daniel Noboa, doesn't just have a Gimbro influencer complex.
Influencer complex. The president of Ecuador, Daniel Noboa, doesn't just have a Gimbro influencer complex.
But he also has a serious fixation on pleasing the Orange president, whom he visited during his election campaign to play a friendly game of golf. Novoa has mentioned the possible construction of a US base in the Galapagos, for which he even pushed for a referendum. Doesn't anyone think about the little turtles that Darwin studied? And he also received Eric Prince, leader of Blackwater, a mercenary company, or the American-style Wagner Group, to help them fight domestic crime. It turns out that already during his second term, Novoa has also implemented Palantir technology to strengthen his customs control. Up to this point, everything is fine, everything looks good, everything is debatable, but the big controversy began when, in February 2016, the Ecuadorian Assembly approved a cybersecurity law that formalizes the relationship with Palantir. In other words, the implementation of a control and surveillance apparatus over the citizens has been made official, and why not, over the political opposition as well. On the other side of South America, in Argentina, while the President of the Republic was crying at the Wailing Wall with Kiko Stale himself and receiving honors in Israel.
It's just a lot of honors at once. This trip is going to be truly exciting because, let's say, being part of the celebration of Israel's independence, carrying a torch representing one of the 12 tribes, also receiving this honor from President Herzog, and in addition, they are also going to give me an honorary doctorate. So, honestly, it's very gratifying.
The President of Israel will give me an award and a torch, and I'll represent one of the tribes of Israel. While this was happening, Peter Thiel had been staying in the country for several weeks, staying in a mansion in the Barrio Parque neighborhood. He has met with high-ranking officials like Santiago Caputo and later at the Casa Rosada with President Milley. What I find really dangerous about all this, and let me know in the comments if you agree or not, is not so much the fact that surveillance technologies are being installed and that they're controlling all of us, which is already pretty terrible in itself. The real danger for me lies here, that Palantir exports the harmful ideology of the Technological Republic to new governments. By the way, they actually share a lot of common ground with Milley's anarcho-capitalism. Let me elaborate a bit more on that. One of my favorite philosophical movements is the Enlightenment, which developed within a European cultural movement whose ideas were based on liberty, reason, equality, progress, fraternity, and secularism. As you can imagine, it was the ideological basis of the French Revolution and the first step toward the gradual abolition of the old regime in Europe. One of the most representative internal debates of the Enlightenment, it took place between Voltaire and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who actually absolutely hated each other. And ironically, the remains of both philosophers lie facing each other in the Pantheon in Paris. Voltaire said that the enlightened elites would guide the people and that progress is achieved through reason and technology. Basically, maintaining the status quo, just with secular and political reforms. On the other hand, Rousseau said that society needed to be reformed because the elites were already corrupt, and they would continue to become more corrupt. As they accumulate more power, it will lead to a more unequal and less free society. Furthermore, the advancement of technology had to go hand in hand with morality. Sebas, why are you talking to us about philosophy? This channel is about geopolitics. First, because philosophy is cool, and second, because it's directly related to the topic. It turns out that Peter Thiel's main field of study isn't technological engineering or systems engineering, but philosophy. His manifesto, The Technological Republic, is a philosophical vision of life that some authors describe as the Dark Enlightenment. Unlike the Enlightenment of the 17th century, Thiel's philosophy rejects democracy, freedom, and secularism in favor of a return to a system more similar to the Middle Ages or the Ancien Regime. A philosophy that favors the concentration of power in a very small elite, in this case, an elite that controls technology. So I believe we can say that Palantir is direct proof that one of the two Enlightenment rivals was right and the other was wrong. If you were paying attention, which was it? Exactly. Voltaire, you were too naive. And some authors, like the Greek political scientist Yanis Varoufakis, talk about techno-feudalism. This theory holds that we are entering a socio-economic system where large tech corporations act as the new feudal lords. Their lands, the digital realm, are completely controlled by them, while ordinary citizens like us are mere serfs who depend on their platforms. Every selfie you upload to Instagram, where you can follow me by the way, is free labor that you do and that they monetize thanks to advertising revenue. Every post you write on Facebook is useful information that is stored in their databases and will later be sold to governments. By the way, if I mysteriously disappear for saying all this when Palantir has gained more influence worldwide, now you know why. Save this video just in case. However, unlike Meta or Amazon, which take our data as users, Palantir takes the data of entire populations through government clients and hands it over to US intelligence agencies. In this techno-feudal system, the digital peasant is not the social media user, but the Argentine or Ecuadorian citizen, whose sovereign data is integrated and analyzed by a foreign corporation that uses it to profile and classify them. That is to say, Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg would be the feudal lords and Peter Thiel the holy emperor. I repeat what I said a while ago, that the greatest danger is not becoming digital serfs of the big companies. The big threat is not that governments buy Thiel's technology, but that they buy his dark Enlightenment ideas, which are opposed to democracy, freedom, and secularism. Right after this video, I'll be launching a poll on my Instagram account where I'm having more interaction. You can follow me before they use our data. You can also share your opinion in the comments of this video. Do you agree with me? And do you think Palantir is a threat to our region? How do you think our governments should act in the face of the growing influence of the United States? Don't forget to leave your comment and see you next time.